Good morning, everyone, and welcome, welcome. I appreciate you guys being here. So the name of this talk is supposed to be Get Ahead of the Swelling Tide. Think tsunami, guys. We're getting ahead of the tide here. And I want to relate this to both our jobs as well as our life. So each of you in your bag should have gotten a book, and there's a magnificent horse on the cover of that book. And the title is Drink Fine Wine, Ride Fine Horses, Leading the Life of Your Dreams. Oh, don't you hear the angels sing when you read that? You're like, oh my gosh, this sounds fantastic. Well, let me tell you about my other job. I was the purchasing director, the purchasing agent at the city of San Diego. 20-year plus government employee. Started as a trainee and worked my way up through the organization. My goal, I wanted to be a city manager. So I thought I really need to work in a lot of the different departments to understand how a city works. So I started in water, and then I moved to wastewater. Yes, the clean and the dirty side of the house. Equal opportunity, financial management, community service center, city clerk, and then I got a call. On the front page of the next day paper, the purchasing agent, along with other 8 city managers, management types, were going to be fired, and it was going to make front page news. So my friend, the finance director, Lisa, called me and said, Tammy, I really want you to be purchasing agent. Lisa, I don't like purchasing. I don't want to be purchasing. They're the folks that don't let me get what I need when I need it to do my job. I hate purchasing, to be honest. Well, she said, let me let you in on a little secret. In 6 months, we're reevaluating the budget, and your current position as community service manager is going away in 6 months. I would love to be purchasing agent. In fact, I can start tomorrow, Lisa. My only caveat, Lisa was my friend, she was a great manager, and I said, I will do it if you are my boss. No problem, Tammy, I will be your boss. 6 months later, Lisa left the city of San Diego, and I'm still a little pissed at her for that. So when I became purchasing agent, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna whip this place into shape. We're gonna fix things, and it's gonna be fast and lean and mean, and we're gonna get things done. Then I got to purchasing. There's actually rules. There's laws we have to follow. It really does take 6 months to put a bid on the street, get it awarded, and get the shovels in the dirt. That's what it takes. So I went through a huge learning curve and learned about purchasing and what we did for a living. And to be honest, my respect for purchasing grew. It's one of the toughest jobs in government. First of all, no one likes us. No one appreciates us. And they all know how to do our job, don't they? In fact, they have no problem telling us how we should do our job. Now, can you just imagine you telling another employee how to do their job? So there they are, a SWAT team, police chief, and they are in front of a house. And you go up to the police chief and tap him on the shoulder and say, here's how I think you ought to handle this situation. People do it all the time with purchasing. The vendors tell us how to do our job. The other departments tell us how to do our job. Our bosses even tell us how to do our job. So purchasing is tough. So when I was in purchasing, one of the big things that I had to deal with was morale and having to deal with issues. Because not only was the job tough, but dealing with the people element and people not appreciating us was tough. So whenever you're getting in front of the swelling tide, we need to kind of know the lay of the land. So when we're looking at government today, Gallup poll in 2015 did a poll of American public. The overall impression of government at this time is at an all-time low. It's the lowest it's been in years. We as government employees are kind of lumped together in that group that's not looked upon very fairly. And the media has a big part to do with that. The elections have a big part to do with that. I mean, you see what's going on, and it doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, whatever you are, we're all pretty kind of disgusted with all of it. Can I get an amen when these elections are over? Man, Television will finally go back to something normal, and the news might report something besides what Hillary was wearing and what Trump was saying. We're just done with it as Americans. But that's the nature. And so people see that, and they think government. That's how we all are. Yet we do a great job. So in that Gallup poll, no matter who you were, what part of the country, the top 4 things that people were involved in, they're worried about the economy. That was number 1 for all Americans. Didn't matter where you came from, what affiliation you had. The second was terrorism. It's been a big part of our life over the last 15 years. So people are worried about that. We're worried about the future of our country, mostly for our children and our grandchildren. We are worried about that. And then finally, we're just worried about the future. What's the future out there? So when we look at our workforce right now, the number 1 concern in the workforce is the generational gap. You know it. We have 4 different levels of people working in the workforce right now. We have 5% makes up, they call them the matures. It's not my name, but it's called the matures. These are people past the age of 65 that still want to continue working. They're a very small minority part. The second part is mostly in management. It's us, the baby boomers. We entered the workforce and we are mostly in that management. The third group is actually the smallest of the groups as far as the age group is Gen X's. There we go. We got a proud Gen X. And then finally, the millennials. Now the millennials have taken a lot of bashing, mostly by us baby boomers, right? They're our kids. John, come on up. I want to put a face to the millennial. John, I asked him to be a volunteer, and immediately, knowing me, he said, for what? And I said, all you have to do is stand there. He said, do I have to talk? I said, no, of course, you're a millennial. I would never allow you to talk. So isn't he, first of all, he's cute as can be. I know I'm old enough to be his mother, but man, I wish he was in San Diego. I introduced him to my daughter, but they're cute, these millennials. They're young. And the other thing is they're smart. He is smart as a whip. IT stuff, if any one of you has any phone problems, John's your man. Can you load this app for me? But I wanted to put a face on the millennials because we beat them up. The media beats them up. So John, thank you for being my token millennial today. I appreciate that. But they're in our workforce. So that, you were done. So when we're in the workforce and what we do, this is our mix, folks. This is what we're dealing with. So baby boomers, that's who I am. We grew up in the 60s. It was the space race was on, and we had a common enemy, Russia, the Soviet Union. John F. Kennedy, he came out and said, we will put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and by God, we did. The presidential medals came out for physical fitness. Remember that when you were in PE? And we had to be able to do 50 sit-ups and 20 pull-ups to get the blue ribbon. And if you didn't get the blue ribbon, you were a loser. Because baby boomers have winners and we have losers. And there's no such thing as a damn participation ribbon, is there, for a baby boomer? And when you want the corner office, by God, you work for the corner office. That was the goal, get the corner office. We were to go to college, get a job, good health benefits, get married, have kids. That was the American dream. Then along came the Gen X's. My Gen X, there you go. Highest divorce rate for parents during that time. They became the latchkey kids. They became very independent, very resourceful. Latchkey meaning they had the house key around their neck because after school they had to let themselves in, maybe start dinner, help little brother with homework. They became very resourceful and independent. But they also sort of, and this is not my word, this is the media's word, kind of the jaded generation, because things didn't go like a plan, like for the baby boomers. So they would ask, why are we doing it that way? Those are the people in the workforce that are always asking why, and they irritate us baby boomers. You really do by doing that. Yes, I know you do. And then finally the millennials, the youngsters, the Johns of the group. Now, as much as we pick on them, because they have been a little coddled. Come on, they're our kids and grandkids. We coddled them to death. But they have new insight. And for them, they don't need to get married, have kids, and buy a home. In fact, for them, no home, no car, no problem. And we baby boomers don't understand that, do we? Why won't they become responsible? So we have this intermix in the workforce that we're dealing with on getting ahead of the rising tide. So now let me switch gears. That's the government stuff. Each one of us in any one of our jobs, we are still a person. We have hopes, we have dreams. We, by God, had stuff we were gonna do, didn't we? When you were little, did you grow up and say, I'm gonna be a librarian? I'm gonna be a purchasing manager? No, we were gonna drive flying cars and we were gonna conquer the world. But life happens, and this is what we do. So the book that you have, and I hope that you'll read at least part of it, talks about going after your dreams while you're working the day job. Now, I'm a very practical woman. I worked government for 20 years. My husband was the dreamer. In fact, I used to tell him, you're the balloon and I'm the string. I keep you tethered to earth. But he pushed me to dream as well. And I made sure the mortgage was paid after every month. So we're a good team. But when we started our family winery, a lot of people asked me about that. I was a government employee, and we bought a piece of property that we called the Big P, potential. Beautiful house, a Spanish adobe home, and I already had the name picked out, Hacienda de las Rosas, the big house of the roses. So when we pulled up to that Spanish adobe home with a rose garden out front, oh, this is the home. However, it had 600 dead apple trees and an old dilapidated avocado grove. So there was a lot of work. We purchased that home, and we still didn't even have our old home up for sale. So we paid 3 mortgages. The first mortgage, the new mortgage, and all the equity we pulled out of that house for that dream. That was some scary times. 3 small children, but we were going after the dream. Later, we decided to clear the property, and my husband planted grapes. He told me, for fun. Yeah, when your husband says it's gonna be fun, question it, ladies, question it. Later, we opened a tasting room in Old Town San Diego. And in that tasting room for 8 years, we worked 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got to close 2 days a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I'm still working for the city of San Diego, but we're after the dream. In that shop, we were able to be on the front page of USA Today. Me in my school marm dress, my husband dressed as a cowboy in front of our bar on USA Today. We also won the San Diego Marketing Award for Small Businesses for 2013, and in 2015 we were chosen as one of the top 5 wineries in San Diego County. So when people come to our winery, they ask me, so how many people do you have working for you? Okay, here she is, customer service, shipping department, HR, we're all here today. And a lot of us think when you're going after your dreams, well, I don't have the budget. I don't have the money. I had kids. I got a mortgage. So I'm thinking you need to take the baby steps. You need to think, what is my dream? What did I always want to do? It may be just traveling to another country. It might be going to a place that you've never been before. It might be learning something new. I've always wanted to play the piano. If you're thinking dreams or pie in the sky, go to the moon, sometimes it's playing the piano. What are those dreams that you're looking toward, and how do you want to get there? So when we had our Old Town tasting room, very, very busy. And I will tell you, here's how we got on USA Today, because people ask. We created an experience. And this is what I'm asking you to do in your lives. Here's the experience, and here's how it happened. A little reporter came in on a Saturday afternoon. It was a rainy day, which is very rare in San Diego. So we don't really plan for rain. We don't have things set up for rain. So people were piling into our little shop. One of those people was a reporter from USA Today, a young lady, and she was not there to do a story on us. She was there to do a story on a local pizza parlor. So she hung out with us for 3 hours. Okay, she might have been an alcoholic, but she was there for 3 hours with us. And during that time, my husband and I were having a great time, high-fiving, serving wine, music was playing, he had his Frank Sinatra on, we were having a great time that day. When she left, big hugs, big kisses, keep in touch, and then she went out the door. 2 weeks later, I get a call, and she says, I'm doing a new story. In fact, it's about husband-wife teams that work together. All right, this is the media, so you always have to question what the story's gonna, is this gonna be a good story? Oh yes, it's how you guys positively work together. Sure, we'll do your story. 2 weeks after that, someone from LA came down, took about 200 photos of us, and 2 days after that, front page of USA Today. Big surprise. Why? Were we the best winery in the nation? Hell no. Were we the best family winery? Were we the biggest? Were we anything? No. But what we created was an experience. We created an experience for her that was special. So now I'm switching again. I started with people hate government. You've heard the term good enough for government work? A little bit derogatory, isn't it? They're talking about us. Used to mean good enough for government work was way up there. It was a high standard. But over the years, it's come down. So they have a poor opinion of us. We also have the change. We have the millennials coming in. Interesting stat, in 5 years, 40% of the workforce is retiring or leaving. In 5 years, 40% of you will not be in this room anymore. Millennials, John, take over, baby. It's yours in 5 years. Go for it. But it's going to change rapidly. So what can you do in the meantime as a government employee, working for your organization, wanting to go after your dream? I'm telling you to dazzle. That's why I'm wearing this sparkly suit today. We're going to talk about dazzle. And if you think you have to be a AA personality to do that, if you think you have to come from a certain part of the country or have certain skill sets or money, you don't need to do that. You need to take whatever you have, whatever you are, and learn how to dazzle for yourself and for others. So here's what I mean. When someone has an interaction with you and they walk away, how did you make them feel? What was the experience they had afterward? And I know we have to say no sometimes. I said no. Sometimes we have to say you can't do that or that's not the way. But you still can be a human being. You can still be kind. And that's something that's gotten lost lately. Kindness is a treasure. And the way you treat people is part of who we are. We got on USA Today because we were kind and we provided an experience. And when she walked away, she felt awesome. So you're probably thinking, Tammy, you don't know my job. You don't know those moron customers I have coming in the door. Kindness, patience, dazzling. Oh my God, where have you been living? Well, I lived in the city of San Diego, and while perfect and beautiful, it still had its issues. When I was purchasing agent, we changed from a mayoral form of government, or a city manager form of government, to a mayoral form of government, meaning now the mayor was your boss. So that means 11,000 employees reported to the mayor. And instead of looking things in an operational way, it was, what way is the wind blowing? And when the mayor came in, he required that all unclassified employees, management, that would be me too as well, we had to fill out a termination form. We had to give him our resignation the minute he came into office. Now, he can fire us. We're at-will employees. But for him, he was sending a message. I'm in charge. And if you don't fill out the resignation notice, you would be fired. So me, being the main breadwinner, 3 children, about to start college anytime now, I thought, you know what, there's swords I'm gonna die on. This is probably not the one. So I'll complete this resignation form, knowing he could fire me anyway, and he kept it on file. Who was my boss? The guy with the file drawer. He's the one that had them in his office. And on any given day when I, as purchasing agent, said, you know, ethically, we might not want to do that. In fact, morally and legally, we're also on shaky ground. And he would mention my resignation notice during that discussion every time. Despite that, I decided, you know what? I don't care. If he's going to fire me, he's going to fire me. We're going to dazzle. So I took my little purchasing team and we became a unit. We decided that while we couldn't dazzle every customer, we were going to pick one a day. So on any given day, when somebody called, somebody came to the counter, I had a meeting, we each in our mind had to pick someone to dazzle that day. So here's the idea of dazzle. Say you have someone comes to your front counter and you're to help them. And you go, you're very helpful, and you do what you think you need to do, and you make them to go through the process. All right, you're done with that person, you look back and you think, okay, that was pretty good. I think I did good service. Good service. Now, here comes your mom's best friend. She's an older woman. She's kind of teetering and tottering up to the counter, and she needs the exact same service. All right, now I need you to be honest. Are you going to treat mom's best friend exactly the same way as you just did the customer who came in right before that? Do you help her to the counter? Do you go get the form for her because you see mobility issues? She needs to go to another department and you know they're going to want a copy. Do you go ahead and pre-make the copy for her? Do you even walk her to the other department? Now that is dazzle. That's what I'm talking about, that little extra effort. That person you give that dazzling experience to, first of all, it's just the best thing you could do for them, and it makes you feel good. But it also shows them that government employees and what we do, we not only make a difference, but we are human beings. We aren't just good enough for government work. In fact, we're setting the gold standard for government work. She or he will tell their friends. They're the best marketing out there because, first of all, they can't believe it. The bar is really low, guys. The bar is really low. If you're the least bit good, kind, helpful, you throw them off. Oh my God, look what they did. That's dazzling. We don't have far to reach for dazzle, guy. We don't need to be Apple Computer. We just need to be that much better in our government life. So dazzle is what I'm asking. Can you dazzle everyone? Heck no. It's exhausting to dazzle. It's exhausting. You'd go home and you'd be griping at your kids and your husband because I've dazzled all day. Get off my back. You can't dazzle, but you can pick one person a day, 300, let's just say 360 customers, people that you dazzled in a day. You never know. The other thing I'm going to ask you is that we really get entrenched in being comfortable. We just do. And it's not just government, it's everybody. If I asked all of you to get up right now, take all your stuff and try to make your table look like nobody was there before you got here, and I ask you to leave the hotel and go stand out there for 5 minutes. Now I say, come back in. Everybody come back in. How many of you will go to this exact same chair at the exact same table? Why? Because that's your chair. That's your chair. And if Eric came and sat in your chair, you'd kind of hesitate. Why is he in my chair? You've only been here 30 minutes. This is not your chair. This is the hotel's chair. But we as human beings, we get very comfortable, don't we? And you've only been here 30 minutes. That's how comfortable you are right now. Now imagine in your jobs and in your lives how comfortable we get. And it's hard to try new things. And it's hard to be a little different. And then if we're being different, here's the other thing that happens. Our coworkers say, well, why are you doing that? Why were you treating them special? Why are you going out of your way? Why did you walk them to that building? Because they like to be comfortable too. And they're used to you being a certain way, so they want to keep you like that. Our families are best at that, aren't they? They love us, they support us, but God, don't change too much because we kind of like you like that. Even if we don't like you like that, we're used to you like that. So your mom, your sisters, your brothers, they'll be the first thing. What are you thinking of doing that for? Why are you trying to do that? They like to be comfortable as well. So when you dazzle, get ready to be uncomfortable. Get ready to make the people around you uncomfortable. That's what dazzle does, and people will try to pull you back. So you're probably thinking, oh, Tammy, it's all nice. You're in the city of San Diego. You never even have to deal with snow. In fact, I'll admit, I never have bought salt. First time I was in New England, I saw your big salt barns with the mountains of salt that you guys have. And I asked my friend who's a purchasing agent in Illinois, so what are all those barns out there? And he looked at me, he's like, well, that's salt for the roads. Well, why do you put salt on the roads? That's the Florida, San Diego girl talking. I know golf course sand, guys. I know every graduate of golf course sand that can happen because I'm in San Diego. So what we do is a lot different in different parts of the country. But here's an example for you of dazzle. Each one of you got a copy of my book. And in the book, I talk about us pursuing our family dream and going after that dream while I work for the government. But here's sort of a postscript to that book that's not in the book. In July 2014, we eventually opened our winery at our home, Hacienda de las Rosas. That was the original dream. We had our shop in Old Town for 8 years, but the dream was to open a winery with my horses, so when you walk in, there's a horse to greet you in the winery, and you can enjoy wine tasting and walk the property. July 2014, we had our grand opening. November 2014, my husband unfortunately passed away after a 5-year battle with cancer. No regrets because we realized his dream. That was my honor to him, my gift to him. I cashed out my 401k to get that winery finished before he passed away. I'd do it in a heartbeat again. Because guys, you only got one life. You got your dreams. When are you gonna do them? Working the day job doesn't keep you from your dreams. In fact, it might be a way to pay for the dreams. Where are you going? What do you want to do before you leave this earth? The game ain't over till it's over, guys. So if some of you are saying, well, I'm going to wait for the kids to grow up. Well, I'm going to wait till I retire. Well, I'm going to wait till my wife retires. Guys, my husband was 59 years old when he passed away. You can't wait. Some of you have had children, grandchildren pass away. You've had all kinds of tragedies in your life. When are you going to go after these dreams that you hold true to your heart? Pull them out, dust them off. Yeah, you got to still do your day job. I get that. But go after the dreams. So I'll share a government dazzling story because after my husband passed away, and anybody who's lost somebody very close knows that's a tough time. And you kind of have, I call it the business of death. There's things you have to do after someone close to you. By the way, get 15 copies of a death certificate. You're going to need 15 copies of a death certificate. Everybody wants them. So I'm thinking, I got through a celebration of life on January 10th, which was his birthday the following year. It was a gorgeous day. 300 people, we had it at the winery. I thought, a tribute to him, that's where we should have his celebration. 300 people showed up, perfect San Diego weather, gorgeous day. 2 weeks later, I am pushing my cart in the grocery store, at the grocery store, coming out to my car, and my phone rings. And I answer the phone, and this very abrupt lady who did not identify herself said, I need to speak to William Holzhauer. That's my husband's name. Well, I'm thinking it's just a pushy salesperson, so I said, I'm so sorry, he's not here right now. Can I help you? Without getting into the story about my husband. She just pushed through, and she said, no, really, I need to talk to William Holzhauer, and only William Holzhauer. Well, this is his wife. I'd be happy to help you. Okay, I have to stop here and tell you. God puts red hair here for a reason, okay? You don't shake redheads up too much. He's put a warning sign. Here she is. Be careful of redheads. So my dander is getting up a little bit. This lady's being rude. So finally she says, well, William Holzhauer is the only name on the form. That's who I have to talk to. And I said, listen, lady, this is his wife. My husband is dead. However, if you get a hold of him, I got a couple of things I'd like to share with him too. I told you, the redhead in me. Well, let's just call her Bulldog, because that's her name to me now. Bulldog says, well, I need to speak to him, and you should have called us the moment he passed away. Who are you? You haven't even identified yourself. Well, she happened to be with the TTB. Now, you might not know who that is. They used to be called ATF. You know, the federal government, alcohol, firearms, but then there was that little Waco incident, and they got in trouble, so they did a name change. They are now called TTB, but they're the exact same agency. So she said, when your husband passed away, you were to call us in 30 days. You are now in violation, and we can close you down. Redhead kicks in, here she goes. And I said, well, I'm so sorry. I didn't know when I hung up with the mortuary, you were supposed to be the next person I called. And thus triggered the audit. Yes, the red hair kicked off, and I got audited. 2 little ladies came to my house and wanted to see our records all the way back to 2002. This was my husband's job. He did the paperwork, but I was able to pull it off. Of course, I have to admit, my southern accent came out, and would y'all like some more sweet tea while you're doing this audit? Well, I passed the audit, paid my $2,000, and I thought, good, I'm done. Oh, no, you're not. We just finished the audit. Now you still need to change his name to your name on all the paperwork. And they told me they were going to fast track it. You know what a fast track for the federal government is? 9 months. I could have had a baby before I got my paperwork changed. 9 months, finally got the paperwork. Now, you're probably thinking, I thought this was going to be a Dazzle story. Didn't she just talk about Dazzle? I'm using that story for contrast, because all they really wanted was their forms and their tax dollars. That's all they wanted in the end. It was the painful process they put me through to get their forms and their money. So now I'm thinking, okay, that was the feds. The state is going to want their forms and money. So I might as well just bite the bullet, call the state of California, see what I have to do. So I call the 1-800-whatever number, and you know those numbers where you go through voicemail hell, and they always say at the beginning, and this is a total lie, we've recently changed our selections. Don't they always say that? They didn't recently change it. They just want you to listen to the whole thing. That's why they say that. So they recently changed their selections, so listen all the way through. So I listened, and I got a person right away. It didn't even clicked over. Can you imagine calling a 1-800-whatever number and actually getting a person right away? It was David. David from the state of California. David, I said, I need to fess up. I think I've screwed this up, but let me explain. And I tell David the whole story about my husband passing, how I don't know what I'm doing. Could he please help me? And David says, first of all, Miss Rimes, I want to say I'm so sorry about the passing of your husband. I got a human being on the line. He said, let me help you here. I don't want you to do a thing. In fact, what I'm going to do is go all the way back to 2002 when you started. I'm going to find all the forms that your husband ever filed, send those over to you, and then we'll start from there. So I don't want you to do a thing. 3 days later, he emailed all of those forms. In addition, he called me to make sure I received the email and I could pull up the attachments. When does that ever happen? Never, never in government. Remember, the bar is low, guys? The bar is low. The fact that he called me, I'm excited. So I got the forms, and he said, the only 2 you're missing is 2014, 2015, completely understandable with what you were dealing with. So if you will fill those out and return those, you are in our good graces. Well, now I know government forms. I worked in government, but for the life of me, I cannot figure out these forms because it's about alcohol content and all the sugar levels and all this stuff about the grapes. It's about winemaking. There's a funny thing about alcohol. They want you to track it when you're making it. So that's what we had to do. So I called David completely frustrated and said, David, I'm so sorry. You're going to think I'm a moron, but I don't know how to fill out these forms. No problem. Have you been involved in the operation? I said, yes. My husband had mobility issues. He was very sick. I did a lot of it, or he would tell me what to do so I can kind of tell you what happened. And I walked through the last 2 years of winemaking with him. He said, Miss Rimes, while you were talking, I completed the forms for you. In fact, I'm going to email them over. All you have to do is sign them and return them. He said, because they're late, I should be charging you late charges. However, you know what? You've been through a lot. I'm just going to waive those late fees, pay $100 for 14, $100 for 15, and you are good as gold. David from the state of California. Do you see the difference? Both of them wanted exactly the same thing. They wanted their forms and their money. Two different experiences. I would tell you, I am so impressed. I don't know how tall David is, but I think I'm going to propose marriage next year to that man. Because that's how wonderful. I've told people about David all over the country. Because, guys, we can be that David to somebody. Those people that come to our counters, to our departments, they all got something. You got something going on right now. The person sitting in the cube next to you, the person that's in your office, there's people going through divorce, heartache, hard times, kids' issues, disability stuff. We're all people in the end. So I'm going to ask, as you go through your lives, as you go through your work day, is there someone you can dazzle? Is there someone you could be that kind to? Because I'll tell you, after he passed away, I still remember all those individual kindnesses. MHEC hired me to do a speech, and it was 1 week after my husband passed away. And I called Eric and I said, I have never done this before. I've never canceled a presentation. But I tell you, I don't think I can do this one. And of course, he was completely understanding. So I have to tell you that I have a place near and dear to my heart for MHCC because they understood and they were kind to me. So I wish you well in where you go forth. I know Eric's standing because I got to finish up, and we want you in the exhibit hall. So as you go through your day and as you go through your lives, I hope you go forth and dazzle. Thank you.